Now, before we start on this section, don't go look up the word Nedlog in your dictionary because it's not there. Not yet anyway. It should be. Someday it probably will be. But I made the word up. And I'll explain in a minute. George S. Patton, one of the most successful and aggressive military commanders of World War II, famously said, "Fatigue makes cowards of us all," something often quoted by another great leader, Vince Lombardi, the football coach. When people are exhausted, it's really hard to maintain their courage. And today, in the world of the pandemic, a lot of people are exhausted. I mean, there have been personal grief, there's been loneliness, there's been career and financial dislocation. A lot of people are just flat out exhausted. And your challenge as a leader, your challenge as an entrepreneur is to help people re-spark that spirit, to help people find the energy. And in our Lone Ranger culture, it's really hard for people to ask. We tend to give and give and give, and we pour and we pour and we pour, and eventually the pitcher's empty and you can't pour out of an empty pitcher. And we have to somehow find a way to relight that candle. And that's where the Ned Log Rule comes in. The golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The Ned Log Rule is the golden rule in reverse. Ned Log is the word golden spelled backwards. Anything you would be willing to do for somebody else if they asked you, be willing to ask for that help yourself if you need it. We need to go from the Lone Ranger culture to the support group culture. Many years ago, I was involved in the fight against the tobacco industry and their efforts to addict children. And I had a conversation with Dr. C. Everett Koop, great American hero. And I asked him what he thought was the most important development in all of healthcare in the 20th century. And he didn't talk about pediatric surgery, where he was a pioneer. He didn't talk about public health, where he was the key person in fighting public smoking and AIDS and things like that. No, he said he thought it was the support group. Why? Because in a support group, people are taking back responsibility for their own health, their own care, and not only that, they're reaching out and helping other people as a community. It's having a culture where it feels like a support group. What Quint Studer talks about, a replenishment culture. That is the way we deal with the exhaustion that makes cowards of us all. And I think a beautiful metaphor is the hug. What do you have to do if you want a hug, if you need a hug? You have to ask somebody else for a hug. Hugging yourself is really unrewarding and unhelpful. You have to be willing to say, I need a hug. And in today's world, a lot of people need hugs. We have to be willing to ask for it. There's been a lot written on lean management, kind of a left brain approach to management. There's a lot of good stuff with it. At Values Coach, we talk about lean on me management. Having a support group sort of culture where at the end of the day, people go home, they're physically tired because they've been working hard. They're mentally drained because they've been thinking hard, but they're spiritually and emotionally uplifted because of the joy that they've had in working with other people, because of the spirit of fellowship, because they've been willing to ask for help when they need help, to practice the Ned Log Rule, that golden rule in reverse. Fear is a reaction. Courage is a decision. There's no courage emotion. It's a decision to do what you're afraid to do in spite of the fear. Perseverance is making that decision every day, day after day. You fall down, you get back up. You fall down, you get back up. You hit the brick wall, you hit it again. Ben Horowitz is a very successful entrepreneur turned venture capitalist, and he's a good writer. And he wrote a book called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. And in that, you should read it. And in that book, he talked about conversations he's had with CEOs. And here's what he said. I always ask this question: what is the secret of your success? And he said the mediocre CEOs all talk about their brilliant strategies and their great leadership and the wonderful teams they have built. He said the great CEOs are remarkably consistent in saying the same thing. I didn't quit. I didn't quit. Randy Pausch. Here's a guy living the American dream. Randy Pausch, he's a professor at Carnegie Mellon Institute. He loves his job, loves his students. He's got a beautiful family, 3 little kids, diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and given 6 months to live. And literally as he was dying, he's thinking about lessons for living. And he wrote this beautiful little book, The Last Lecture, another book you should read. And in that book, he said, brick walls are not there to stop you. They are there to make you prove how much you want something. You know, the brick walls are not optional. You know, starting a business, writing a book, anything you want to do, you're going to run into roadblocks and obstacles. What is optional is letting them stop you. You know, the truth is, businesses don't fail. Owners quit. And for every Joe's Sporting Goods or whatever that's gone out of business because of the economic conditions or whatever, there's another Joe's Sporting Goods somewhere else where the owner stayed a little later, made a few more phone calls, went hat in hand to one more bank begging for a loan, came up with a new idea, did not quit, kept it going, and today the business is a success. And we've seen this during the pandemic, haven't we? We've seen restaurants go out of business. We've seen other restaurants do curbside delivery or come up with new menus, and they're doing fine. Businesses don't fail nearly so much as owners quit. And there's a quote that I absolutely love by Dan Kennedy, who's a marketing guru. And in one of his books, he wrote this. He said, "It's okay to be without resources, but it is inexcusable to be without resourcefulness." And then he repeats the same sentence 3 times, but with a different emphasis each time. He said, there is always something you can do. There is always something you can do. There is always something you can do. And that emphasis, there is always something you can do, is what will help you persevere your way through the challenges of trying to manage and grow a business. And I want to share with you a personal philosophy that I have. I call it be today, see tomorrow. And again, it's another way of shifting from right brain to left brain to deal with frightening situations. Here's what it means. Be today when the future looks bleak. You know, you feel like the economy's tanking, there are new competitors coming in, it feels like your business is tanking. Close the door on tomorrow and focus right now on what can I do right now today. On the other hand, when it's bill collectors banging on the door or a customer who's just canceled a big order, that's when you need to see tomorrow. You know, we're going through a tough time now, but here's the vision of where we're going to be. And don't let people lose that hope, that belief in that vision. You be today, focus on what you have to do right now today, but see tomorrow and keep the vision intact and alive. How do you know when to do which? Well, I don't know. That's sort of the art of leadership. And sometimes it may be a minute by minute shifting, but be today, see tomorrow. And one more thing while we're on the subject. The difference between courageous and crazy is often evident only in retrospect. Anybody who's ever started a business has had people, including well-intentioned people, maybe family members, say, "Are you crazy? You're quitting a stable job to do this and take all that risk?" And you know that 5 years later, when you're on the cover of the local business magazine as the success of the year, they're all saying, "I always knew you could do it." And of course you smile and say thank you, and inside you're saying, "Nah, I don't remember it that way." Be today, see tomorrow. And remember to keep your courage up in the face of every challenge. You'll make it through.